There's a very simple reason that you cannot articulate embodied wisdom, intuition, and alignment to someone who is still stuck in the fear matrix. It's kind of like trying to describe sunlight to someone who's always lived underground. Or like trying to pour water on a rock and hoping that it's gonna bloom. Or maybe even like playing music for someone who's wearing noise-canceling headphones. That's probably the closest to it. No, they're all pretty on point. It is not possible because ascension, enlightenment, self-actualization, it can't be taught. It's earned. It's embodied. You have to ascend you can only go there by living through it, by surrendering to your own inner landscape, which is an emotional process. There's grief involved, there's alchemy involved, and so much more. And for someone who is avoiding all that work, but trying to conceptualize the process, sorry, you're not gonna get it. Is that not spiritual bypassing? Here's the truth, and this is gonna hurt some egos, but we operate on a scale of frequency. What that means is every single one of us has a unique energetic signature. And what that defines, my energetic signature, aka my frequency or my vibration, indicates where my level of consciousness is at. Where my level of consciousness is at dictates or tells you not just how smart I am by traditional means, but my scope of awareness, my understanding of the world at large, the way that I've integrated all of the wisdom and the lessons that I've learned in this life, and all the knowledge as well. But it tells you how close or far a human is to love and enlightenment and authenticity, and how close a human is to fear. It tells you how much clarity you have, how clear your energetic field is. The goal is for us to rise. That's why it's called ascension. We are rising towards love, towards truth, towards sovereignty, and so on. We come into this world just like animals at the bottom. It also kind of lines up with Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It lines up with the chakra system in terms of how animals mostly are in the root chakra. We start out in life in the root chakra. It's survival, all of that stuff. And ascension, all of these things talk about ascending or ascending to self-actualization in Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We're ascending through the chakras all the way to the crown chakra, which is divinity. We are ascending up to love, the vibration of love and authenticity, and whatever else is at the top. What is at the top? Enlightenment. They're all the same thing, they're just different charts. And you can literally find out what frequency you're operating at right now. Not only can you find out, there's probably tests online, but when you raise your frequency, you can kind of become attuned to who's around where you're at, who's higher than you, and who's lower. And what you start to see is as you move towards enlightenment, you raise your frequency up the scale, the people who are below you have density. They are more trapped in the fear matrix. They do not have the same sense of embodiment or intuition or surrender that you will or that you do. And therefore, there's a lack of resonance. And here's the thing, you may be like a little bit higher than some people in one phase of your life, or even lower or right around somebody. But as soon as you leap forward, you choose growth, you expand, you have a quantum leap, and you rise above someone, and there's like a distinct gap between you and that person, it becomes noticeable for you because you feel drained around their energy. You feel like you need to explain yourself and your words through the lens of fear, which just doesn't work. When you're operating in sovereignty and intuition and authenticity and alignment, you can't turn that into language. You can't fit that into a fear-driven framework. It just doesn't work. That person needs to ascend. Someone who is at a lower frequency, who's living in density and fear, does not have that same sense of embodiment, does not have that same integration. They have closets in the house that are shut tight They're in the dark, they have shit in there that's cluttered and that they haven't gone through in years, that's driving the whole thing. And what happens is when we have shadows that are unintegrated, and this is really true, I found with a lot of people who are very intellectual and value intellect and academia and learning, they think that's the path to enlightenment, learning more, being more knowledgeable. All the while, they are keeping all their shadows tucked tightly in the closet behind them, not going in there and not realizing that that's what's driving their entire life and keeping them small. And really what happens is when we don't integrate our shadows, our frame of reference is this big. You're just collecting information to fit within this little worldview. But your level of awareness, not that big, not that deep, not that embodied. What ends up happening is as you ascend, it gets bigger. Your scope of awareness gets bigger. Even if you collect less information, you understand everything because you start to embody the information that you've collected and integrate it. It's no longer just knowledge, it's lived experience, which is a completely different energy and frequency than just, I know what that means and I'm gonna fit it into what I understand about the world. And so when you're up here and your frame of reference is this big, right? And you're talking to someone who's lower on the scale, who's only able to see this much, it kind of dilutes the message, kind of dilutes the truth. You're not really able to deliver truth because that person's not connected to truth in a holistic, embodied way, if that makes sense. So essentially, it's a waste of time to try to explain yourself to someone who is not already in resonance with you. I think when I first went through my spiritual awakening, I wanted to explain to everyone. And I think probably it was because it wasn't fully embodied in myself. And I wanted to control everyone and I wanted to get everyone on board with me. And now that it's actually embodied, I just don't care what anyone else thinks. If someone's not doing their inner work or they're not embodying the sense of wisdom or intuition that I'm tapped into, all I see is just you can just see that they are stuck. They are in karmic cycles. They are entrenched in often avoidance patterns or attachment patterns or all kinds of stuff. And you can just kind of see it for what it is. And their inability to see truth clearly with you does not undermine the truth, doesn't undermine your recognition of it. Truth is truth, whether you can see it for what it is or not. So I think that's something to really be aware of as you grow towards truth and towards sovereignty, is that it's quite liberating to get to a place where you don't care what anyone else can or can't see with you. If you are tapped into truth, when you are tapped into truth, you're tapped into truth. No one can take that away from you. They can doubt it all they want. That's their limitation. That's their suffering and their attachment, and that's okay. It doesn't stop you from your liberation and your alignment. Just know that as you ascend, that clarity will become clearer for you, but it also will just continue to become harder and harder to articulate in words because it is, again, embodied wisdom. There's no language for it. This is moving towards energetics when we realize that we are living in a very energetic universe and most of our reality cannot be articulated. And there's liberation in that. We realize how much of a metaphysical universe we live in. And I think to just sort of know that just as your energy and your connection and embodiment to truth speaks for itself, so do other people's karma and density and all of that. And so you really can start to realize here is where I end and that is where that person begins. And I don't need to explain myself, because even if I try, they don't have the capacity or the tools to understand because they're not in the same place in terms of consciousness and embodiment and frequency and so on. So try not to take it too personally, especially in the beginning, because that's the hardest part. When people doubt your path, when people doubt your intuition, when people doubt your truth, follow it. Just keep following it relentlessly. And the closer you get to it, the more clear you become, the more sovereign you become, the less you care what anyone else thinks or, you know, it just doesn't really matter anymore, because once you are living it, you're untouchable. So keep going in that direction. I think that's it. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video and it helped you, please give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe to my channel to support me, and definitely lots more content like this. I will talk to you soon. Bye.